The deep hunt begins. The sea was still that morning, the horizon blurred with the early mist. My father, a seasoned fisherman, had waited for a day like this for years. A perfect day for hunting. Not just any hunt, though. This was a shark hunt, a rite of passage for my brother, Tom, and me. We had grown up on our father's stories of the ocean, of the beasts lurking below. Some were just fish tales, of course, but others, they clung to the back of your mind, gnawing away like a shadow just out of sight. The boat swayed gently as we drifted farther from the coast, the engine's hum fading as the water deepened, turning darker, colder. I could feel an unsettling silence growing the further we ventured. Even the gulls that had screeched above seemed to sense something. They were nowhere to be seen now. Keep your eyes sharp, boys. These waters are known for more than just sharks. My father's voice was low, as though he didn't want the sea to hear him. His face was weathered, the kind you trusted because it had seen too much. And don't ignore the signs. The ocean always warns before it strikes. Tom, leaning over the edge of the boat, squinted into the water. "Dad, what kind of signs?" he asked, though his voice was half-hearted, as if he didn't expect an answer. Before my father could respond, a loud bang shook the boat, causing us to all jump. The fishing rods knocked over, clattering against the deck. I stumbled, grabbing the edge of the boat to steady myself. "What was that?" Tom asked, eyes wide. Father's expression darkened. "Brace yourselves." His voice dropped to a whisper, and his hands tightened on the wheel, his knuckles white. "It's too soon. Much too soon." He didn't explain, but we didn't need him to. A strange vibration was building in the water beneath us, a hum we could feel deep in our bones. I looked over the side of the boat, my breath catching in my throat. The water, which had once been deep blue, was now murky and moving. Something huge was passing beneath us, its shadow stretching far beyond the boat. Far beyond anything I'd ever imagined. "Dad," I stammered, "what is that?" But before he could answer, the shadow stopped. And the sea, it went completely, terrifyingly still. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the soft lapping of the waves against the boat. My father stared into the water, his face a mask of fear I had never seen before. Tom and I exchanged glances, neither of us daring to speak. The shadow beneath the boat lingered, an ominous presence just out of sight. Then, without warning, something broke the surface with a deafening crash. Water sprayed everywhere, drenching us. I blinked through the salty droplets and saw it, towering over us like a nightmare-given form. It had the vague shape of a man, but that was where any similarity ended. Its skin was slick and black, glistening like oil under the pale light. Long, sinewy arms hung from its grotesquely large torso, and its hands ended in claws, sharp as harpoons. But what terrified me the most were its eyes. Hollow, black pits that seemed to drink in the light, leaving nothing but cold, endless voids. For a moment, none of us moved, frozen in horror at the thing looming above. It let out a guttural sound, like a drowning man gasping for air, and then it lunged. "Get back!" my father shouted, shoving Tom and me behind him. He grabbed the nearest object, an oar, and swung it with all his strength at the creature. The oar snapped in two as it connected with the monster's arm, as if it had hit solid rock. The creature barely flinched. Instead, it reared back and slammed its massive fist into the side of the boat, sending a violent shudder through the deck. The wood groaned, and I could hear the terrifying sound of splintering boards beneath our feet. "We have to go!" I screamed, grabbing Tom's arm. "Dad, the boat!" Tom started, but the monster lunged again, this time swiping its claws across the deck. The sharp tips caught the corner of our father's jacket, dragging him toward the edge. He fought, kicking at the creature, but it was too strong. "Run!" he shouted through gritted teeth, struggling to break free. "Get to the engine!" "No!" My heart pounded in my ears as I grabbed Tom, pulling him toward the back of the boat. I glanced over my shoulder just in time to see the monster lift my father off his feet, tossing him like a rag doll against the cabin wall. He crumpled to the ground, dazed but alive. "Dad!" Tom yelled, but I yanked him forward. We stumbled toward the boat's engine, our feet slipping on the wet deck as the creature began to thrash, tearing apart the boat with terrifying ease. It moved too fast, its body grotesquely fluid, shifting like it was made of water and shadow. "Get the engine going!" I screamed at Tom, frantically scanning the deck for anything we could use to defend ourselves. The boat groaned again, tipping dangerously to one side as the creature tore into the hull. Water was seeping onto the deck now, pooling around our feet. We were running out of time. Tom fumbled with the controls, his hands shaking too much to grip the switch. "Hurry!" I shouted as the creature's head snapped toward us, its hollow eyes narrowing. With a low, rumbling growl, it began to move, faster this time, its long arms dragging it across the deck toward us. Then, with a cough and a roar, the engine sputtered to life. But the boat, our only chance of survival, was barely hanging on. The water was rising fast, and I could see the creature's distorted reflection rippling beneath the surface. I didn't dare look back as the monster lunged once more. We had to escape, but I knew, somehow, I knew that whatever that thing was, it wouldn't let us leave so easily. The boat lurched forward as the engine roared to life, but the sea had already begun to turn against us. The waves, once calm, were swelling, rising up like walls of water. Each one slammed into the boat, sending us crashing down only to rise again. Behind us, the monster let out a guttural, furious cry, louder than the wind howling in our ears. Tom and I held onto the boat for dear life as it surged through the violent sea. My father, blood trickling down his face from where he'd been thrown, staggered to the helm and gripped the wheel, trying to steer us through the chaos. But the creature was not done with us. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The monster had slipped back beneath the waves, but its massive, shadowy form was racing toward us beneath the surface, like a shark honing in on its prey. I could see the dark outline growing larger, faster, as if the thing was one with the ocean itself. "Dad, it's coming!" I screamed over the roar of the waves. My voice felt small, lost in the storm of water and fear. My father glanced back, his eyes wide with terror. "Hold on! We've got to outrun it!" But how could we outrun something that moved like a part of the sea? The boat slammed into another towering wave, and I felt my stomach lurch as we were thrown into the air. For a brief, horrifying moment, we were weightless, hanging above the crashing water. Then we came down hard, the impact rattling my bones. The engine sputtered but didn't die. Beneath us, the monster surged, its clawed hands slicing through the water, just inches from the boat's hull. I could feel it, the pressure of its pursuit pulling us back, dragging us into its dark depths. My father wrenched the wheel, and the boat veered to the side, narrowly avoiding another strike. Suddenly, the shore came into view. The land was still distant, but close enough to give us hope. "We're almost there," Tom shouted, his face pale but determined. The monster let out a bellowing screech, a sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was furious now, thrashing beneath the boat, sending shockwaves through the water that rocked us violently. The waves seemed to grow larger in response, as if the ocean itself was working with the beast to swallow us whole. The boat was barely holding together. I could hear the boards creaking, feel the cold water sloshing around my feet. But the shore, it was so close. "Faster, Dad!" I yelled, my voice hoarse from the salt and wind. "I'm trying!" he shouted back, his knuckles white on the wheel. The engine roared as he pushed it to its limits, but the monster was closing in again, its massive form rising from the depths. With one final, earth-shaking roar, the creature lunged, its body breaching the surface in a terrifying arc. Its claws outstretched, reaching for us, the dark water streaming off its slick skin. Just then, the boat hit the shallow waters near the shore, and with a sickening scrape, we were thrown forward as it collided with the sandy bottom. The impact was jarring, knocking the wind out of me as I tumbled onto the deck. "Out! Now!" my father bellowed, scrambling to his feet. Tom and I didn't need to be told twice. We jumped over the side of the boat and into the shallow water, the cold biting at our legs as we stumbled toward the shore. I glanced back, expecting to see the creature closing in for the kill, but something strange happened. It stopped. The monster, half submerged in the shallows, hesitated. Its hollow, black eyes watched us, rage and hunger burning in its depths. It opened its maw, letting out a low, frustrated growl that made the ground beneath my feet tremble. And then, as though repelled by some invisible force, it began to retreat, sinking back into the deeper waters. We collapsed onto the sand, gasping for breath, our bodies trembling from exhaustion and terror. The boat, barely afloat, was a broken wreck behind us, the waves gently lapping at its hull. The monster hovered just beyond the surf, pacing back and forth like a predator waiting for the right moment. But it wouldn't come closer. It couldn't. Something kept it from following us onto dry land. For now, we were safe. But I knew it wasn't over. As the adrenaline drained from my body, I collapsed onto the sand, my chest heaving as I struggled to catch my breath. Tom lay beside me, staring up at the sky, wide-eyed and silent. We had made it. Somehow, we had outrun the impossible. But the weight of dread still hung over us, pressing down like a heavy fog. I turned to look back at the boat. What was left of it, anyway? It sat half-submerged in the shallows, broken and useless, a skeleton of wood and splintered dreams. And then I realized something. "Dad," I croaked, my voice weak. Tom sat up sharply, his face pale as the blood drained from it. "Where's Dad?" Panic gripped my heart as we scrambled to our feet, scanning the beach, the broken boat, the waves. There was no sign of him. He had been right there with us, steering the boat, shouting at us to run. But now he was gone. "Dad!" Tom screamed, his voice cracking with desperation. He rushed back toward the water, wading into the shallows as if our father might still be there, hidden beneath the surf. "Dad!" But the sea was empty, and the monster, the creature that had chased us, was nowhere to be seen. It had retreated into the deep, but it had taken something with it. Someone. "No!" I whispered, my heart hammering in my chest. "No, no, no." We scoured the beach, calling his name, but it was as if he had vanished into thin air. The terror that had kept us running from the beast now twisted into something worse, an agonizing, soul-crushing dread. I could still feel his presence, the warmth of his hand when he had pulled me up. It was impossible. He couldn't just be gone. He wouldn't leave us. "Where is he?" Tom muttered, his eyes wide and glassy, still locked on the endless horizon. "Where did he go?" And then, we heard it. At first, it was faint, a whisper carried on the wind. It was so soft, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. But as it grew louder, I froze in place. It was unmistakable, our father's voice. "Run, run, before it's too late." The words echoed, distant yet chillingly clear, as if carried from somewhere deep beneath the waves. Tom and I stood frozen, our eyes meeting in shared terror. It was his voice, but something was wrong. The tone, the way the words dragged, it wasn't natural. It sounded like him, but it was hollow, distorted, like an echo of someone who had already slipped beyond this world. "Run. You can't escape it. You'll never escape it." The voice was closer now, circling us, coming from all directions at once. My legs locked in place, fear rooting me to the spot. "Dad!" Tom called out weakly, his voice trembling. "Dad, where are you?" And then it came again, louder this time, angry, twisted beyond recognition. "You'll die, just like me." We both recoiled, our blood turning to ice as the voice snarled, growing more monstrous with every word. "You can't hide from it. It's in your blood. It will come for you next." I grabbed Tom by the arm, pulling him away from the shore. My hands were shaking. "We have to go. Now." We ran. We didn't look back. The wind howled through the trees as we stumbled up the beach, the phantom of our father's voice chasing us, promising horrors we couldn't comprehend. Every step felt like we were being pulled deeper into some nightmare, one that had only just begun. By the time we reached the small village on the edge of the coastline, the sun had begun to set, casting long shadows over the docks. The few fishermen who had been preparing their boats for the night's haul stood in stunned silence as we approached, bedraggled and breathless. One of the older men, his face lined with years of sea-worn experience, stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he took in our disheveled appearance. "What happened out there?" he asked, though I could tell from his expression he already knew. Our dad," I started, but the words stuck in my throat. I couldn't say it. Tom was shaking, his hands gripping his knees as he bent over, gasping for air. It took him." The old man's face hardened. "No one sails these waters at night," he said, his voice low, almost a warning. "You should have known that." "But our father," I choked out, "we thought." He cut me off with a sharp glance. "I don't care what you thought. No one dares go out there. Not anymore. I looked at him, confusion and anger swirling in my mind. Why? What is it? What's out there? The man looked out at the darkening sea, his eyes distant, haunted. Some say it's the spirit of the ocean. Some say it's something older, something forgotten. Whatever it is, it's hungry. He turned to face me, his expression grave. You'll never find him. Once it takes you, you're already gone. That night, no one sailed. No boats left the shore. And no one dared speak of what lurked beneath the waves.